Good morning, everybody. Hope we're doing well today. I'm just gonna tag everybody, let them know that we are live. So, welcome everybody. Going to dig into prep. And yeah, market gapping up on news that Russia has pulled back some troops. Not sure if everybody saw that news, but definitely always check our news channel and our Discord. But there are reports that some troops have started to leave the border in Ukraine and go back to base, that their military exercise with Belarus came to an end. There was a date of February 20th. It said some troops are going to remain in the area and continue with military exercises that should conclude February 20th. So now we have troops kind of pulling back, and we kind of have a date to keep an eye out for more troops pulling back and de-escalation. So market popped on that news as these squeezes got tighter and tighter overnight. Market popped up to the top of the squeezes and back to the moving averages. We are now above the 200 at 4448, and we're slowing down a little bit at the daily 8 and daily 15, which are there at around 4468, 4470. So we also have the daily 21, the mean up at 4498, right under 4500. So let's see, today I expect a little pullback off of this 2-hour squeeze top to tap the 200 live, and maybe even this zone, which VWAP is coming up to the middle of, so right around 4440-ish. Could get as low as 4420, kind of yesterday's high, so keep an eye out for that. You know, we ran up to this zone, rejected it, couldn't get to it, couldn't get to it, couldn't get to it. Now we're up above and through it. So as always, I'm looking for a little retest, come back and confirm that we want to move higher. So kind of like an inverse head and shoulders, right? This all being the head, this being a shoulder. Let's see if we come back to retest this, as long as we hold 4410, still liking the upside. I only say that since we are arriving at moving averages and squeeze top, we could have a pullback. We can still push right through this squeeze in the moving averages and fire this 2-hour to the upside to get us back to the daily at the top. Let me just pull up. There we go. So yeah, we get our 2-hour and our daily. The daily squeeze way up at 4620. We are already, 2/3 of an ATR into the day. So keep that in mind. We can have an ATR and a half or 2 ATR a day, but that's going to take a lot of volume, right? So we have POC on ES up above at 4504. So POC is sitting up with the daily mean. So let's see if that can be a magnet and then turn into a cannon, but not necessarily expecting us to, already being up 60 points, to run another 60, 50 or 60, right, to get up to our magnets. So that'd be over an ATR. ATR and a half would be like 130. I don't know. I'm not necessarily expecting us to complete the mission back to last week highs today. Wouldn't be surprised if we pull back a little bit, let this 2 hour thin out, and then get on through it. We'll probably see the same for a lot of names today. NQ's already through its 2 hour squeeze and says it's starting to fire. So we'll have to see if that can hold or if we come back again to retest this zone and highs. It's kind of very similar setup. And VWAP is right at the top of that zone, whereas on ES it was pulling up to the middle. So definitely want to see us hold 14,400, these key levels. Start making the journey up to the daily mean. But we are up almost 300. In fact, at one point we were up over 300. So let's see. We do have the daily squeeze bottom down at 13,900 and 13,800. We didn't tap it yet, right? In this whole slip with it showing up. So let's see. I don't think we'll make an H this week. So I'm gonna watch this trend line. Now that we're out of this wedge, we might pull back to this trend line. It lines up well with this zone. So looking to go long again. If we do come back and test this 14,367. I think that could be a good spot. Yesterday's high to bounce, hold this trend line, and keep trucking. And as always, we can just push right through and fire up. Alrighty. Its daily squeeze is moving in and getting pretty tight. I assume that's the daily. Yeah. So now the daily is moved in and basically covers from this second Keltner down at 1930 all the way up to the first Keltner up at 2107-ish. So let's see, we got a very thick 2 hour squeeze here, 4 hour up above right before we get to the daily. Let's see if the 2 hour has us pull back, retest the daily 8. We are above the mean. So we got a liquidity zone here below. Let's see how far we want to pull back to test it. We could just tap the 21 right here at 2050-ish and bounce on up to 2100. We have the daily 50 up in that squeeze top, so Ruddy's going to give us a good gauge to understand if they want to keep picking small caps up off the daily mean and push it higher to the top of the daily squeeze. YM, looks like we made it to the first Keltner down yesterday, and as you can see, hit the squeeze bottom, chopping around this Keltner, last pullback, one more squeeze bottom tap and this Keltner to take off. Now we've fired these lower time frame squeezes, pulling up to the 2 hour and our liquidity. So let's see if we get some rejection, maybe a pullback to yesterday's high, and where VWAP currently is before trekking higher. And on a lot of these names, you know, we are at liquidity. We could just chop around liquidity yesterday, much like we chopped around this first Keltner down. They are loving to make big overnight moves lately, so we still have our opportunity daily. We hit these shorts, some longs, some shorts, some longs. So let's see what we get today. We do have resistance that we have arrived at. So let's see if that causes us to pull back for some profit taking and repositioning. Let's run through some names. Oh, you guys got a little bit of a preview of some of our new zones that one of our awesome traders, AP, is putting together. So, Apple was a great gauge yesterday, great relative strength in the early part of the day's sell-off, and it kind of carried in Q along with a couple other names. We did have that pullback, but again, it held this pre-market consolidation with a quick tap to take back off, held that Keltner, first Keltner down, which kind of cut right through that consolidation, and set in a higher low. A wedge into the end of the day. Some of us swung calls. Gonna wake up pretty happy. So today, let's see, we are back above some key levels. Where are we? There we go. So some key levels that I had here: 171.30, 172.11. I could see us chopping around in here before picking a direction to head, whether it's higher through the daily 50, to get back up to the first Keltner up at 175, or do we give out this 171.31 and go back to revisit yesterday's highs? We'll have to see, but this is going to be a great gauge for tech today, as NQ's at the top of these 2-hour squeeze and trying to fire. The Apple is going to have to hold this zone and try to continue higher as well. Already up, let's see, it's got a 4-point ATR, closed at 168, already up 3 points, so we're already in ATR extent. Let's see if we maybe even tap the daily 50 for some rejection to fall back. Key levels to watch, these highs from yesterday, and this zone. If we slip this, we can easily go to here. If we hold this, we can easily push a little higher, but we already are the bulk of an ATR move, so it's gonna sound familiar on every name today. Yesterday AMD was so clean, off of the daily 200, the daily 15, and this key level we had in between at 114.50. Went pre-market, tapped that 114.50 at open, ran up to the 15, started to run into some resistance from the highs, setting us into a wedge. It rolled over right back to that 114.50. Tap the bottom of this wedge that formed, and we're up overnight. So let's see, can we hold this trend line and start to push off of yesterday's highs in the daily 15, right around 117, 118. Can we hold that in level and keep trucking up to 122? Or do we give out and come back to retest 114.5? Amazon was very strong yesterday. I talked about in prep yesterday these gaps and have them marked. And I covered in prep yesterday, we've fallen into the large gap and right at the top of the second gap, the smaller gap, which aligned with the daily 15. Amazon held it pre-market and took off from there back out of the gap zone. And I know it's kind of wide, but we just mark the gaps the way we should and then play off of them. So now we're back above this gap zone. We have all of liquidity. Well, we have the daily 21 and the daily 8 right near the top of that gap zone. And Amazon's already pushing through yesterday's high, much like everything, so. But it's not up a lot. I might have even expected it to be up above the previous day's high, so. Amazon usually doesn't get a ton of action pre-market, but let's see what we get. And does it pull back to test yesterday's highs and this 31.50? Does it need to come all the way back to this gap top? And we have the daily 50 and the first Keltner up here at 32.25-ish. So we've got our targets to the upside. We've got some targets to the downside. Well, let's see which way the market breaks. As strong as Amazon's been, I'm not really thinking I would want to short, but more so just wait for a dip buy. Let's see, Facebook. I'm going to say just leave it alone. I've kind of said that the last few days. Has there been opportunity? Yes. But it's a little broken right now. I read an article that the whole they tried to do a Foo Fighters concert after the Super Bowl on the Meta. It was a huge failure. They couldn't even figure out how to get that right. You know, a live event. It had something like 30,000 people were supposed to, or showed interest to attend, but only like 13,000 got in. So they're just gonna have bad news on top of bad news until they start to recover a little bit. So frankly, not a huge interest, but if Facebook is going to try to fire the squeeze up, we've got our first Keltner at 25. And we have this recent high around 230. If we reject and start to come back, these highs from yesterday, 218, the squeeze bottom area around 215. Google. Google has this big old trend line that it got through and then came right back down with. Same kind of wedge setup on everything yesterday. And now we're gapping out of it. So Google's back at the daily 21. We have the daily 50 up almost halfway to the first Keltner up. So let's see if we, on Google, come back to retest this daily 15 at around 27.40. Yesterday's highs and this trend line at around 27.20. Or if we just keep on going through 2780, 2800 psychological level and the daily 50, which will probably be around 2805. Microsoft. Oh, so we've been tracking this daily squeeze for a while, right? With that gap down on the Russian news, tap the daily squeeze. Took off from there. Microsoft was pretty strong. It took a while to get going, whereas Apple was just kind of straight up. Microsoft had a bit of a dip, then it got it going. Came back for almost a double bottom, a little bit of a lower high, but look at the closes of these candles above that wick. So good sign for continuation up. Got a real nice gap up overnight, back above 300, very key level. Wouldn't be surprised to pull back, test 300, test 29.5-ish. We do have the daily 200 and the first Keltner down near this 296. So if the whole market comes back for some profit taking into retest yesterday's highs, target to the downside for Microsoft, this 296, the daily 200, and first Keltner down. Could be a great spot for a dip buy. Yeah, this trend line updated a little bit closer, but riding off of these, yep, this little zone right here, 294, 296. Want to see that hold. Wouldn't be surprised if we do have a pullback to there. If we go hit there, gonna be locking up puts and going long type situation. But we could just find our feet before we get back to yesterday's high and carry up to the daily mean at 305 and last week's high at around 311, 312. Let's see. We've got Nvidia, Netflix, next. Netflix very strong yesterday. All of streamers were pretty much straight up from open and chilled out at Friday's highs. Came back pretty much about halfway. Netflix not up crazy with the gap up. And we do kind of have some resistance, a downtrend from these highs. So kind of settling into this wedge. So keep an eye on that today for Netflix. We could easily just kind of chop around this 5-point range until the market figures out direction. The 420s were a great playoff beast yesterday. Once and maybe even twice. We can take a quick look, I suppose. Netflix 420s. Yep, off a beast for a 1.3 to 5. And didn't quite make it back to beast, but made it to the patty. And a 150. They'll be gapping up. So it might look for entry again around that 175 to 250. Have to see where they settle, where they open, and if they want to come back and test this 175. But yep, watch this wedge on Netflix today and these previous highs and lows. Nvidia. Has earnings this week, right? Tomorrow after the bell, I think. Let's say after. Yeah, tomorrow after the bell. So premium will be elevated. We are now back above the daily mean. Pulling back to test it right now. Let's see if during the cash session we slip back to the daily 8 and yesterday's highs down at 247 before continuing higher. If that gives out, we'll be coming back to the daily 15 at 242. If those can hold, we've got this 258 to the upside and the highs from Friday around 261, making a nice zone target. Let's look at QQQ. Played this long yesterday up to this zone. Locked everything up. Let the pullback happen. I did catch some shorts on that as well. But we played the 350s up, the 348s back, and 345s. Let's see. Moving along nicely. These wicks always make me pause. Because it's one of two things. It's a low volume, quick dip to buy the dip from institutions, potentially even dark pool prints coming through. Or it can be kind of a preview as to where we're going today. So that is invalidated if we just hold and go, obviously, but just like I've said, wouldn't be surprised if we have a little profit taking back to the highs before we take off further. So, going to be watching these 350 puts now that we're above them. And these 360 calls, pretty much halfway in the middle there. We are at the daily 8 and 15. Pretty much right now. So let's see if we can hold those to make a run to the daily mean up at 360, daily 21, or if we lose these or reject these and head back to this zone in yesterday's highs. Roku. Not quite as strong as Netflix was yesterday, but it did have some squeezes to deal with. It ultimately ended kind of ugly on Roku, so not a huge focus for me today. But I definitely like how this daily squeeze is stepping up to the 4 hour, right at this daily 15. So, oh, I'm sorry, I guess that is the 4 hour stepping up to the 2 hour, and the daily is much lower. So let's see on a pullback if Roku can hold the daily 15 in this 155 to 157 range. If not, probably going to visit this squeeze bottom at 144. If we can hold here and catch a bounce, back to these squeeze tops, and the 4 hour and daily are all aligned. So, see what we get on Roku. Let's go with SPY. Same candle. Yeah, kind of same story. Are we going to pull back to 442 and hold it? Do we need to go lower? 440. Past 437. There might be some shorting going on, but we do have the squeeze bottom. That can hold us up right around 435. So let's see if this 442, 440 can hold us up, or if we go all the way down to the squeeze bottom from the squeeze top. Yeah, we have the daily 21 up around that 450. So, going to be watching the 450 and the 440. And Tesla to wrap it up. Very strong yesterday. Made it up to 900, came on back, held and closed above this 865. We are now above 900. So let's see if 900 can hold. And yesterday's highs. If not, probably going back to this 880, 875. If these can hold, push up to this key level 918, 930, which is aligned with the daily 21 right now. And then we'll see and we'll know what we're dealing with. Hope this prep was helpful for everybody. If you're new to predicted trades or it's your first time tuning in, please check out our website. We have a number of packages on there. We even have a day pass if you guys want to come check it out. We do prep live for the public every morning, so you can tune back in every day around 8 a.m. And yeah, thanks for visiting. Have a great day trading. Good luck today. And we'll see everybody in our Discord chat.